Thank you all very much for coming for this interaction, and I must apologize for the slight delay today. But there have been some events which we will come to a little later and let you know about. With that, I have here, let me introduce to you my colleagues on the podium. We have Mr. Sanjay Singh, Secretary East, who will brief us about the Prime Minister's visit to Cambodia and the East Asia Summit, as well as the India-ASEAN meeting there. Along with him is Ms. Renu Pal, who is Joint Secretary ASEAN Multilateral, and she will assist Secretary East on issues relating to Cambodia and Prime Minister's visit there. And of course, I have here with me Mr. Gautam Bambawale, who is Joint Secretary East Asia, and we will come to that aspect of the today's proceedings a little later. So with that introduction, I will request Secretary East to make a brief presentation, and then we will go through the questions relating to East Asia before we move to the next topic on the agenda. Secretary East.
Good afternoon, everybody. Prime Minister will be visiting Phnom Penh, Cambodia from 18th to 20th November to attend the 10th East ASEAN-India Summit and the 7th East Asia Summit. National Security Advisor and Principal Secretary to PM will be accompanying the Prime Minister to Cambodia. India's dialogue partnership with ASEAN countries is one of our cornerstones of our foreign policy and the foundation of our Look East policy. It is a partnership founded on civilizational ties, an identity of perspective and objectives, capacity building and connectivity. We see this partnership as furthering economic growth and prosperity, peace and stability in the region. From a sectoral dialogue partner in 1992 and a full dialogue partnership in 1996, India's partnership with the ASEAN countries was elevated to annual summits in 2002, and Cambodia hosted the first ASEAN-India Summit. Prime Minister will meet his ASEAN counterparts in the afternoon of November 19th for the 10th ASEAN-India Summit. The leaders will take cognizance of the intensification of relations since their last meeting in Bali in November 2011. The leaders will discuss the commemorative summit, which has the theme ASEAN-India Partnership for Peace and Shared Prosperity, and which India will be hosting in New Delhi on December 2021, 2012, to mark the 20th anniversary of this relationship and the 10th anniversary of the ASEAN-India Summit-level partnership. The leaders will also receive the report of the ASEAN-India Eminent Persons Group. In the last 1 year, ASEAN and India have had intensive calendar of meetings and events. Delhi Dialogue 4 on the theme India and ASEAN Partners for Peace and Progress and Stability was held from February 13 to 14, 2012. The meetings were initiated this year between the heads of space agencies from ASEAN countries and India in June. Our ministers for environment met in July, the ministers for agriculture in October, and ministers for renewable energy in November. We have scheduled meetings ahead for our ministers for telecommunications, science and technology, and commerce and industry. This is to give you a full gamut of the functional cooperation that we have with ASEAN countries. The ASEAN-India Business and Business Council meetings would be held in December 18 to 20th. We are also beginning consultation this month on this very day in Hanoi on identifying opportunities for cooperation in the SME sector. The first visit of the ASEAN-India Parliamentary Assembly delegation to India took place in July. The first roundtable of ASEAN-India network of think tanks was held in August. We've held a lot of events this year since this is the commemorative year, and to launch a number of initiatives in our cooperative endeavors. An ASEAN-India expert meeting in climate change took place in June. A workshop on various on adaptation and mitigation technologies in agriculture in August. The the launch of an ASEAN-India newsletter on agriculture and forestry, and an Agri-Expo in October. The workshop on cooperation in renewable energy in November. In addition, we have seen the institutionalization of the media exchange program this year, with 20 ASEAN journalists visiting India in February 2012 and 8 Indian journalists visiting Vietnam and Cambodia in July 2012. We expect 20 senior editors from ASEAN countries in December 2012. The Committee for Permanent Representatives and a delegation from the ASEAN Secretariat visited India in February and August respectively. We would also be hosting 50 ASEAN diplomats from November 21st for a month, 30 ASEAN farmers and 250 ASEAN students in December this year. ASEAN-India trade in 2011-12 was around $79 billion, crossing the target of $70 billion set in 2009 to be crossed by 2012. We have a free trade agreement in goods which was signed in 2009 and which became fully operational in August 2011. Negotiations are underway on the FTA on services and investments. This intensive sectoral cooperation between ASEAN and India has been identified under the Plan of Action for ASEAN-India Partnership for Peace, Progress and Shared Prosperity for 2010-15. The activities and collaborative projects under this plan of action are being met out of the $50 million committed by India to the ASEAN-India Cooperation Fund in 2009. Another $5 million are available under the ASEAN-India Green Fund, set up in 2007 to promote adaptation and mitigation technologies in the area of climate change, and $1 million is being used from ASEAN-India Science and Technology Development Fund, also set up in 2007. In the political field, India has been participating in the ASEAN Regional Forum, the ASEAN Defence Ministers Meeting Plus and the Extended ASEAN Maritime Forum meeting, and our ongoing agenda includes cooperation to combat non-traditional threats such as anti-piracy cooperation, combating terrorism and drug trafficking. India supports this initiative for ASEAN integration and has set up English language training centers, entrepreneurship development centers, and vocational training centers in Cambodia, Laos PDR, Myanmar, and Vietnam. We allocate over 600 scholarships under the ITEC for ASEAN countries. ICCR also extends fellowships to the CLMV countries. Connectivity with ASEAN in all its 3 dimensions, geographical, institutional, and people-to-people, is a matter of priority. The trilateral highway under construction between India, Myanmar, and Thailand would connect Moreh in India to Mae Sot in Thailand. 2 flagship events in this commemorative year: the ASEAN-India Car Rally 2012, which will be flagged off from Yogyakarta on November 26, an expedition by INS Sudarshani, a sail training ship of the Indian Navy, which set sail for ASEAN countries on September 15th from Kochi on a 6-month-long expedition. You could follow the news on ASEAN-India events on the special website set up for this commemorative year. As far as the East Asia Summit is concerned, it started in 2005 as a leaders-led forum comprising of 10 ASEAN countries, plus Australia, China, India, Japan, Republic of Korea, and New Zealand. United States and the Russian Federation joined the 6th EAS in Bali, Indonesia, in November 2011, taking the membership of EAS to 18 countries. In a relatively short period of time, the EAS has emerged as an important dialogue fora in the region. It is a leaders-led forum for dialogue on a broad strategic, geopolitical and economic issues of common interest with the aim of promoting peace, security, stability and economic prosperity. India has participated in all the 6 summits held so far, and we support ASEAN as a driving force in the EAS process. The 7th EAS is scheduled on November 20th in Phnom Penh EAS leaders will hold discussions in plenary and a retreat. The 5 priority areas for regional cooperation within the framework of the EAS include energy, education, finance, natural disaster management, and global health and pandemics. The issues of connectivity and regional economic integration are also included in the EAS agenda as a priority areas for the 6th EAS. During the retreat session, the leaders will exchange views on regional and international issues. During his visit to Cambodia, PM will also pay his respects to His Majesty his late Majesty Norodom Sihanouk. India attended the expanded ASEAN Maritime Forum meet in Manila on October 3rd to 5th, 2012. We support the efforts through the ARF, ADMM Plus, and EAS to evolve an East Asia architecture that is open, transparent, and inclusive. At the 7th EAS, leaders are expected to consider adoption of a Phnom Declaration and East Asia Summit Development Initiative. They would also consider a declaration on regional response to malaria control and addressing resistance to early malarial medicines. They would witness the launch of the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP. PM will also provide an update to the establishment of the Nalanda University. We have recently set up a steering committee to oversee the global design competition. At the 6th EAS, Prime Minister of India had announced India's intention to host an EAS workshop on disaster management and relief in the case of an occurrence of an earthquake. In fulfillment of this announcement, India hosted the EAS India workshop, Building Regional Framework for Earthquake Risk Management in New Delhi on November 8-9, 2012. In the 6 sessions spread over 2 days, participants discuss earthquake risk profiles of EAS member countries, lessons learned from previous experiences, knowledge sharing on technologies and application of mitigation measures, multilateral coordination and support for recovery financing, capacity development challenges, and post-disaster long-term recovery and reconstruction. At the first East Asia Summit Education Ministers meeting held in Yogyakarta, Indonesia on 5th July 2012, India endorsed the EAS Educational Plan of Action 2011-15. We conveyed a proposal to establish an EAS Regional Leadership Development Program and expressed interest in linking a National Qualification Framework NQF to Regional Framework Developing Linking NQF for the whole region. India will also take the lead in drafting a theme paper for the project on technical and vocational education training, teacher and student mobility. Finance Minister participated in the second informal EAS Finance Ministers meeting in Tokyo on October 13, 2012. India has participated in the East Asia Summit Energy Ministers meeting, including the 6th held at Phnom Penh, Cambodia on September 13, 2012. Prime Ministers also hold bilateral meetings with some of his ASEAN and EAS counterparts. I thank you.
What we will do now is, since Secretary East has to leave early, we will first focus on any questions that you may have relating to his initial remarks or on the visit of the Prime Minister to Cambodia. We will then move to the next issue. So let's take only questions related to the East Asia Summit, the ASEAN meeting, and Prime Minister's visit to Cambodia. Yes, Parul, just hold on.
Mr. Singh, you mentioned that negotiations are underway for the FTA on investment and services. By when do you think these negotiations are going to be complete, and what is the status of the negotiations right now?
Actually, I was also going to ask the same question. Can I add?
Yeah, sure.
Can you tell something on the respective positions in the negotiations at the moment?
Thank you very much. Negotiations are being conducted by the Ministry of Commerce. They take the lead in this. I wouldn't like to speculate on when they will be concluded and how long it would take.
Yes, Rishi. Yes.
So there's talk of a kind of a code of conduct being formulated in this upcoming summit for the way countries behave in the South China Sea. What is India's take on this, and how far do you think this is actually going to take place?
The code of conduct that you're referring to is being formulated by ASEAN countries, and the guidelines of which were announced in Bali last year. This is something that is done between China and the ASEAN countries. India is not involved in that.
Yes. Just I said we will deal with that separately, one by one. Now we are dealing with the ASEAN. Yes, Ranjit?
Since many international leaders will be there in Phnom Penh during East Asia and ASEAN, so any bilateral meetings being formed up, or what are the possible meetings?
Yes, of course, there will be bilateral meetings. They are being firmed up. I don't have the full details and fix on the meetings at the moment. We'll keep the press informed of them.
Now, what are the possibilities of meeting Chinese Prime President and the American President?
The Chinese Prime Minister normally attends the East Asia Summit. We'll have to see. As soon as these are fixed up, we'll keep the press informed.
And any indication from Washington?
Please, one by one. Niloa.
Again, on the bilateral, is the Prime Minister likely to be meeting President Obama? And
we don't have a fix on that as yet. I said we'll keep the press informed as soon as we know about it.
Rajiv.
Could you just give one or two concrete deliverables by EAS in past 7 years, which may suggest that it is actually the leaders-led organization, forum, as you said, and not a talk shop?
In international affairs, ideas which are generated at leaders-led conclaves are then put into practice and made functional in a course of time. Among these is connectivity. There's things about dealing with pandemics and diseases. So you have an initiative on malaria, which is very important to all the countries of the region. You have an initiative on dealing with non-traditional threats, such as piracy, terrorism, narcotics trafficking, and trafficking of drugs, etc. All these have have created greater cooperation among the countries of East Asia, and this is helping the people of this region. There are steps that have been taken in environment. There are steps that have been taken in issues such as, the most important being that negotiations have begun on East Asia-wide economic space, which would have lesser trade barriers.
Elizabeth.
My question was actually, Mr. Singh, my question was actually with reference to this RCEP. Could you elaborate on that a little bit more as to how the framework of it, how do we see it emerging, and on maritime security cooperation as well?
RCEP is, for example, basically ASEAN has an FTA with 5 FTAs. One is with Japan, ROK, China, Australia and New Zealand have a combined FTA, and India. Now all these ASEAN plus 1 FTAs are thought to be converted into an ASEAN plus 6 arrangement, in which it would be, all of them would pool in and create a common space, an economic space, and negotiations for this had begun under the rubric of CEPIA, Comprehensive Economic Program for East Asia, and this has now been subsumed into our RCEP discussions. So that is what it is. As far as maritime security goes, in Philippines, the first extended maritime forum took place. I think it was early in September this year. And they discussed various areas of cooperation in dealing, as you know, around 50,000 ships travel through this region every year carrying trade. And it's very important to ensure their security. And all these issues about ensuring security of the ships, ensuring security of marine passage, etc. These are the areas that were discussed.
Can I help?
Yes.
Hello. You mentioned about the Nalanda University. As I understand, there is no intergovernmental agreement yet on this university. What is the update on that? And as I understand, also as per the Government of India business rules, Ministry of External Affairs cannot run a university unless until there is an intergovernmental agreement, like in case of South Asian University.
I wouldn't like to enter into an argument with you there. The fact is that the East Asia Summit, in its press statement, took on board the fact that the institution of international stature would be created in Nalanda. And the Ministry of External Affairs has been given the job of doing so and helping and servicing this institution, which is being led by a very eminent governing board and is taking progress slowly but steadily.
Yes, Mr. Venkatnarayan.
Mr. Singh, could you tell us how soon this road which connects India to ASEAN is going to be ready? When can one hope to drive from India to Hanoi or wherever? Thanks.
We have a car rally going on, which will start on 27th of November. It will start from Yogyakarta, go to Singapore through Malaysia into Thailand into Vietnam into Laos, back into Thailand, then through Myanmar and into Manipur, into More in Manipur, and then through Nagaland into Guwahati. So it is there. It is there. The whole idea of the car rally is to show that there is connectivity.
Yes, Sachin.
So coming back to the question about code of conduct in South China Sea, do we at least support having such a code of conduct there? Because I'm asking because most of our trade with the Asian countries, at least 55% of it is through that region.
It is, the code of conduct is something that ASEAN and China are discussing. But
Asian countries have been demanding it.
We can discuss that separately on our view on that, because that's not the agenda on this thing. If there are no questions on this, we will just break for half a minute so that secretaries can leave, and then we will continue. Thank you very much. We will now move to the next item on our agenda, which, as you know, is on Japan. And as you are aware, that on the 2nd of November 2012, both India and Japan had made the announcement that the annual summit meeting would take place, and Prime Minister would be visiting Japan from the 15th to 18th. Since then, there have been some domestic developments in Japan, and I understand there is also a possibility leading to the announcement of elections later during the week in Japan. Taking all these into account, it's been decided that the annual summit meeting would be postponed to a date which is mutually convenient to both the sides. Our embassy in Tokyo, as well as the Japanese embassy here, are right now in touch with the respective authorities to work out what could be a mutually convenient date. If you have any questions on this announcement, I would request... pardon? Let me finish. If you have any questions, certainly I have my colleague here who handles this region. He will be willing to answer this, because for us this relationship is an important one. This is a relationship where we have annual summit meetings, and given the developments that have taken place during the last few hours, this is a decision that has been worked out mutually, and if you want any specific details or questions, we are willing to answer on that. I just mentioned that the visit is postponed to a mutually convenient time. Yes, one by one. Yes, since you were previously asking a question.
Use the mic. Has this decision been taken following the announcement made by the Prime Minister during the parliamentary debate today in Japan?
I mentioned to you that there have been domestic developments which have led to this, and you have indicated more specifically what these are. But this is an issue which has arisen in the last few hours, and that's why part of the delay for this meeting was also taking into account those recent developments. One by one. Yes, Manish. Yes, please.
Akbar, can we ask questions on possible issues whenever this summit take place?
We will have a specific briefing on that as and when we work out a mutually convenient dates on this. Please, one by one. So your question is answered.
No. I mean, I want to ask on the status of civil nuclear negotiations.
We will answer all these when there is a meeting and we have a briefing for that. Yes, Mr. Venkat Narayan.
Gautam, this has nothing really to do with the summit between the two prime ministers, but I just want to know about the state of the ongoing negotiations for Japanese aid for the rail corridor connecting Delhi with Bombay, and I don't know if Calcutta also is involved. Thanks.
As you know, the government of Japan provides assistance for the Western Dedicated Freight Corridor, and the target date for completion of the Western Dedicated Freight Corridor is during this plan period, that is sometime in 2017, by March of 2017. The work is going on extremely well, and that target date will be maintained, and the Western Dedicated Freight Corridor is expected to be fully completed by March 2017.
Amount
of money.
We will provide those details in due course. Yes, Seema.
Basically, the Japanese asked us this morning to cancel the thing. Or was it how did we come to this sort of decision?
No, as you know, and being a democracy, we can fully understand what happens in other democracies. But there have been some very fast-paced internal domestic developments in Japan during the course of today. And factoring those in, the government of India has come to the conclusion that we should look for new dates which are convenient to both sides for this annual summit. So we are not going from the 15th to the 18th of December for this annual summit, 15th to the 18th of November for this annual summit, but both governments will now look for and search for an alternate set of dates which are convenient to both sides.
Anything else on Japan? Yeah. Yes. Oh, yes, Rajiv, just a minute. Rajiv. Here, he will answer.
Just a one-liner. What's our policy on Senkaku? What's our stand on Senkaku?
Well, this is something. It's an issue or a subject matter which is between Japan and China, and we hope that those two countries can settle that issue or settle that subject between the two of them.
Why I asked this question?
No, you've asked your question. Yes, Reuters, please. No, please.
I was similarly going to ask about the agenda that the Prime Minister was going to take to Japan, and any of the deliverables that were expected. Could you tell us what they were and how they will be affected?
Yeah. No, we will certainly tell you when the meeting is there. We will have a briefing on that, and this gives us space to work further to enhance our relationship. I understand that there are no further questions on this. You've asked your question, please. Anything on this? Yes. Shubhajit?
So can you update us on the nuclear negotiations between India and Japan?
I think I just answered that. When the Prime Minister is ready to go for the annual summit meeting, we will certainly have a briefing where we will update you as we were ready today to update you. Now that we have certain more space to work and strengthen and move forward on our relationship, we will do that homework and come to you better prepared with further information. Yes. With that, I will ask my colleague to leave because he has other meetings, and then I will address you all. Just a minute. Thanks. Yes, now on any other issue, I must say I'm not very well prepared, but I will take.
Sir, may I?
Yes.
Sir, this side.
Yes, one by one, yes.
Two questions.
Ashish, one question always. You can choose one question always. One question always. You can choose which question you want.
Okay, then if you could tell us something about Suki's meeting with Prime Minister. Right.
Yes, Daw Aung San Suu Kyi had a meeting this afternoon with the Prime Minister. It was approximately for 30 minutes in a format where officials were assisting them. Subsequently, they also had a one-on-one meeting. As you know, she has come here at the invitation to deliver the Jawaharlal Nehru Memorial Lecture, and Prime Minister thanked her for accepting this invitation to deliver the lecture. He welcomed her in India, and as was to be expected, both the sides did discuss at some length developments that are underway in Myanmar, including the process of democratization and the national reconciliation process. And in this context, Prime Minister welcomed the efforts being made by Daw Aung San Suu Kyi and President Thein Sein. Also, there was a discussion on how people-to-people contacts can be further strengthened. And in this context, both agreed that they could look at possibilities relating to greater interaction between parliaments, greater interaction possibly between judicial bodies between the two countries. That, in a nutshell, summarizes the discussions that were held during the space of this afternoon. Yeah, those who haven't asked previously. Yes, Stranger.
Sir, you have the Indian High Commissioner in London has sent a note verbal on Lalit Modi. Can you tell us what the note verbal says, and what is it that the Indian government, the Finance Ministry and the External Affairs Ministry expects from the British government on this issue?
Let me start at the beginning and say yes. We had received a request from the Ministry of Finance to take up the matter of certain issues that are still pending as regards Mr. Lalit Modi's financial transactions. We have instructed our High Commissioner in London to take these up appropriately with the concerned authorities. And sending a note verbal is a normal practice in diplomatic parlance to take this up. So if you have that information, that perhaps is factually to your knowledge, that I do not have that information, and neither do, to be fair, we do not keep track of the mechanisms by which our High Commission communicates with diplomacies and chancelleries all over the world. So yes, it is our intention to take this up. When we get the feedback on finally what it is, we will be in a position to indicate to you that this matter was taken up, and if there has been a reaction, we will see what we can share on that. At this stage, we are 5.5 hours ahead of London, so I have not been able to confirm any of the information that you are saying has happened. Yesterday was Diwali, so you would appreciate that the High Commission was closed. Yes.
Sir, Ms. Suu Kyi has called on the Foreign Secretary, the External Affairs Minister, and the Prime Minister as well. During any of these meetings, did the issue of Rohingya Muslims came up from either of the side, and whatever is happening inside Myanmar? I
am not privy to exact specifics. Let me rephrase it. The Foreign Secretary called on Daw Aung San Suu Kyi. Having said that, I'm not aware of the specifics of what you raised, but yes, there was a discussion of issues in Myanmar. Whether the specific issue that you mentioned has been raised, I'm not aware right now, because the meeting just finished at around 2:30 or so, so I'm not aware of the updated details of that. I think we took that decision prior to an understanding. We have been. Let me again clarify. We have been in touch with the Foreign Ministry in Japan well in advance of this decision. They have taken us into confidence, indicating that they are going to make an announcement later this week about elections, which are not going to be held immediately, but they will announce a date. Having said that, now that they were going to announce a date which will have a domestic, which will entail that all of their officials and political leaders would be focused, as in a democracy, on developments internal to Japan. Taking that into account, we've both agreed that it is best to work out a date which is convenient to both of us. And that would certainly not be the date which is 15th to 18th. And we've therefore decided to postpone that visit. We are working on new dates, both in New Delhi as well as in Tokyo. And we will get back once a formal date is being decided upon. Yes, Geeta.
Afghanistan NSA Spanta, in an interview to Times Now, said that Afghanistan knows where Mullah Omar is and that he's in the sanctuaries in Pakistan. Did they share this information with India?
That sanctuaries exist in the region that you are mentioning is something that we are all aware of. That principles of terrorist networks aimed at Afghanistan and also at India are in those sanctuaries is also something we are all aware of. Yes.
So, I'd like to make myself clear about this postponement. Was it the initiative from Tokyo that they wanted to postpone, change the dates?
Again, to be fair, I think you've missed your opportunity. When my colleague was here, I asked all of you to ask as many questions as possible on that. Now that he is left, I do not know the exact sequencing of when this happened and who was the initiator and who was finally, how this went about blow by blow. So I must confess I cannot answer that question because he is not there. He was available to all of you to ask that question, and at that stage you decided not to ask. So you've given him a free pass. Last question. Yes, Gautam.
Yes, I just want to know what is India's view on the Myanmar's the present change of this constitution, which Aung San Suu Kyi has been demanding, that the constitution is not in a proper so that democracy can be truly they can flourish there. So what is our view? Do you have any view on the Myanmar constitution change or change up?
If I may step back and mention to you that on issues which are essentially of a domestic character, it is not our practice or policy to make formal public announcements on. Given that this fits into that broad parameters, you would appreciate that we would follow the practice and policy that we've always followed in such matters. Thank you very much. Yes, you have one question.
About the visit of Prime Minister Belarus Prime Minister. So, what's the reason of inviting him into the India when EU and Americans are putting sanction on him?
We are a sovereign country and we go by decisions that appeal to us. We have always said that measures not taken through global organizations is not something that we are committed to. And this is a generic thing. It has nothing to do with this specific thing. There are several other instances where you can make the same case, that unilateral measures are something that those countries are bound by and others are not bound by. And therefore, if you ask me why you are not following a measure which A country or B country has taken, our view will always be the same, that we are not bound by any unilateral measure or measure of small group of countries in this. We take our decisions by ourselves. Thank you very much.